welcome to your daily current affairs show, Reality Check. I'm Ramna Saeed, bringing you the top stories shaping Pakistan and the world today. Tonight, we look at a story that is no longer limited to Latin America. Yes, what started as a political crisis inside Venezuela has now become a global issue, involving oil, big power competition, and the question of who controls whom in today's world. To understand what is happening in Venezuela today, we must first understand why Venezuela is so important. Venezuela, officially called the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, is located in a very important part of the world. It borders Colombia, Brazil, and Guyana and has the access to the Caribbean Sea and also the Atlantic Ocean. Because of this location, Venezuela sits close to major US shipping routes and sea lanes. For decades, Washington has viewed the Caribbean as its strategic backyard under the Monroe Doctrine, meaning any instability here is seen as a direct threat to the US interests. But location alone does not explain today's crisis. To understand the real reason, we must look at what lies underground. Venezuela is located in the heart of the Americas, bordered by Colombia, Brazil, and Guyana, with direct access to Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. Oil reserves, the Venezuela's core strategic asset. Venezuela holds the largest proven oil reserves in the world, estimated at around 303 billion barrels, representing roughly 17% of global reserves. This exceeds Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and it's more than 3 times the reserves of the United States. The bulk of this oil is concentrated in the Orinoco Belt, south of the Orinoco River, spanning about 50,000 kilometers square. Venezuelan crude is primarily extra heavy oil. It is highly viscous, thick, and sticky, which makes extraction complex and expensive. It requires specialized refineries, but these heavy crude refineries are widely available in the United States. The oil is crucial for producing diesel, asphalt, and the petrochemicals, making it a commercially valuable and strategically significant resource. Despite Venezuela's massive reserves, production has steadily declined over the decades. In the 1960s and 1970s, when American companies controlled much of the industry, production exceeded 3.5 million barrels per day, roughly 7% of the global output. After Hugo Chavez became the president in 1999, the oil industry was nationalized and American companies' assets were seized and the production began to fall. However, under Nicolas Maduro, especially after the imposition of the US sanctions in 2019, production dropped further. Today, Venezuela produces less than 1 million barrels per day, a small fraction of its potential, despite having some of the world's largest oil reserves. Even with sanctions in place, Venezuelan oil continues to flow. The majority of exports go to China, often to repay the historic loans. Some oil still reaches the United States under licenses granted to Chevrons despite broader sanctions. Donald Trump has stated that US companies could invest billions to reverse the decline in the Venezuelan production, but this is a long-term effort. Chronic underinvestment, deteriorated infrastructure, and a brain drain of skilled workers have left Venezuela's oil sector in a poor condition. According to McKinsey, every additional 5 lakh barrels per day of production would require $15 to $20 billion in investment. Donald Trump has been clear that Venezuelan oil and the commercial opportunities for the American companies were a primary reason for removing the President Maduro. He repeatedly emphasized that American oil companies were forced and that Washington wanted to reclaim these oil rights. Trump linked regime change directly to oil strategy and arguing that US companies could restore Venezuela's oil production and earning substantial profits. The official US rationale, however, cites drug trafficking and offering a $50 million reward for information relating to Maduro's arrest. By late 2025, US military presence in the Caribbean had increased. A hybrid strategy including economic pressure, sanctions, legal cases, media influence, and military positioning as well. Analysts noted that US military buildup was too large for a simple anti-drug operation but too small for a full-scale invasion, signaling a coercive pressure approach. On January 3, 2026, the crisis escalated sharply. In Operation Absolute Resolve, US forces captured the President Nicolas Maduro and the First Lady Celia Flores, transferring them to US custody. This marked the most dramatic escalation in decades, with Trump warning that a second larger operation could follow if necessary. Venezuela's oil infrastructure has been severely degraded by years of underinvestment and mismanagement. Restoring output will be expensive and technically difficult as well. McKinsey estimates that around $15 to $20 billion is needed for every additional 5 lakh barrels per day. Historical examples like Iraq after the 2003 US invasion show that restoring the production takes decades, comes with a massive instability, and carries a high human cost as well. The US seizure of Venezuelan oil tankers before Christmas had limited immediate impact on the global oil prices. In fact, prices have fallen more than 20% over the past year due to slower economy, reduced demand, and oversupply. Analysts argue that events such as potential Russia-Ukraine peace deal may influence global oil prices more than any increase in Venezuelan crude for decades. Why Venezuela matters globally? Venezuela is not just a national story, it represents a larger global struggle over energy, finance, and sovereignty. Controlling Venezuelan oil affects global markets, US dollar dominance, and strategic influence as well. Preventing China and other BRICS countries from gaining influence in Venezuela protects American economic and strategic interests. The Caribbean remains a key theater for US influence, while Venezuela serves as a test case for the shifting global order. Venezuela's story reminds us that geography and resources continue to shape power, but international law, human rights, and public consent remain critical. As global competition intensifies, the lines between cooperation and control becomes increasingly blurred. We will continue to follow this story more closely. I'm Ramna Saeed and thank you for watching Reality Check.